Well, it's great now that we look into creating our BC plan. We've looked at our process and all the sort of steps involved throughout that procurement process when we're designing and preparing to begin our business continuity and a disaster recovery planning. In this segment of the video, we're going to look at what it's like to go through that business continuity planning initiation through creating that plan. So there's a couple of steps all the way up to the top of the pyramid, essentially. So let's take a look at what it sort of entails when we create a BCP plan. Now, the very first thing is I cannot stress enough the importance of safety. Anytime we begin business continuity planning, disaster recovery planning, safety is paramount. We want to ensure that our staff are safe. We don't want anyone to get hurt or anything like that. So we have to abide by certain procedures within the organization, and we'll talk about a bit of them throughout this process as well. But the first and foremost part of any plan initiation or creation is the safety of our team and our people within the business. So we want to make sure that everyone is safe, the environment is safe, and there's no harm essentially from anyone to get hurt. Usually, this entails things like evacuation procedures, evacuation plans, safety equipment, fire extinguishers, first aid kit training. We should be able to have those facilities and those sort of enablement throughout our team to support us in the event of a crisis or an emergency or an outbreak. Um, Things like training as well. So I'm going to put some here, things like evac. So we should have an evacuation plan, a procedure on how we safely evacuate the building, get to a safe point, things like the actual plan across to that as well. We've got certain people who are leading that process, and we obviously have to enable them and support them. Then we've got things like equipment. So I'm just going to put equipment for short. Obviously, fire extinguishers if there's a fire, first aid kit if anyone gets hurt, even basic procedures like CPR. Obviously, things like that where first aid training, like CPR, I should say, is paramount as well. We should be able to help and support. So things like that can support us as well through training of obviously safety and the requirements around safety and making sure that we've got a safe environment at all times as much as possible. So safety is the very first thing that we should be thinking of anytime we're considering that planning and initiation or the creation of the plan essentially. From there, once we sort of defined obviously those key areas, our evacuation plans, we've got equipment available to us, we've done some first aid training or first aid kits that are available to us within the business. We move over into procedures for declaring an event. So I'm going to put here declaring an event. Now, similar to our incident response process, we've got to go through a process where someone can yell out and say, yes, we declare this as an event, right? So who do we need to identify and what is considered an event within the organization? We have to define what that looks like. So we will have a list of things that we would go through that would be typically considered an event, right? We have to vet that process, right? And typically not anyone can just stand up and shout there's an event. We've got to go through and obviously define what that event will look like. So we'll have a criteria list available to us. We will workshop that and define um, what those events look like and who will essentially then declare the event, and obviously applying some common sense to those natures as well, because other things related could fall into that list. So as we start dissecting what that event will look like, again applying some sort of common analysis or common sense to that process, because it could affect other services that we may not see during that time of the event. So obviously we have to consider and be aware of those as well during that time. So once we sort of define what they are, then we need to define what that event is, right? So is it loss of a single system? So I'm going to put single system, could be a component, right? If it's a critical system within our infrastructure, then yeah, absolutely. If that goes down for more than an hour or two, then absolutely that could be considered an event. Or is this a natural disaster that could affect half of the organization or all of the organization in a specific location? So single system, maybe something like versing the natural disaster, right? And this could be at a specific location. Now, if a specific location is prone to, tidal waves or tsunamis or tornadoes or things like that, then that could be part of that process. We have to declare the event and obviously define what that event will look like. So again, from that natural disaster versus maybe a single system where a single system may be out for a couple of hours, what does that look like within the organization? What's the appetite of when we're going to declare? and obviously who can then declare. So I'm going to put declare the event, but then first and foremost as well is who can do that. So we have to appoint somebody. Not anybody can go away and just declare this event. We have to identify who will be considered at that point, and then who can then declare that as an event. Typically, it could be an executive member, a director of operations, for example, and then we need to define what is a single person, or maybe if it's a crisis team as well, that come together and determine this. So some organizations may have a crisis committee team, or crisis committee team here, that you may have maybe 5 or 6 people that come together and then have to basically label that as an event, and they will triage it and basically define it, and then they can declare that an event where they may appoint a single person in the team to then go away and say, yes, this is now an event, please declare this as an event. So depending on the structure of the business, depending on the industry that the business is in, obviously the organization's goals at that time as well will have to obviously be taken into consideration as well. So typically you may have either a single person, maybe an entity, or a bunch of people come together, an executive team that come together, or a crisis management team come together, and then we sort of dissect and basically define if this is an event, right? And then they'll appoint someone, and then they'll basically classify that or declare that as an event. And then thirdly is notifications as well. So firstly, we've got, what is the event? So I'm going to put here, I'll just clear up some space just so I can maybe sort of write it out just so we can do some key takeaways. Number one is, what did I say? Identify what's an event. So let's do event, right? So we have to classify what the event is. Number two is who can declare the event, right? So we just spoke about that. And then number three, finally, is notifications. So we'll have to go away and obviously notify relevant people, relevant parties, and then who should be notified at that point of the event. Is that what notifications is all about, right? So is it a chain of people? Is it maybe customers? Is it a building manager? Is it the strata manager? You know, it could be one person, typically maybe an operations manager or a director of operations, and then they go away and notify those other people, based on the event or based on the facts of the event that have occurred. So again, different sort of ways, we sort of ticky tack back and forth, basically who can declare that event, and then obviously notifying the relevant parties to then say, yes, now there is an event that's occurring. Okay, so that's declaring an event with three sort of outcomes there. The next part is we need to define roles and responsibilities. So I'm just going to put in roles and responsibilities, because this is a part where it kind of gets a little bit finicky, and we need to define two things in this area. So I'm just going to do a bracket here and just do a who and what, because it ultimately comes down to those two areas, right? We've got to go who is going to do what, and right, and what roles, and execute what responsibilities. So we have to identify members of that BR or the BC, the BC and the DR team. Then we've got to identify legal and compliance team. Maybe there's personnel involved in that. Maybe there's the executive team and their management. So do they have any roles and responsibilities within these activities? And if yes, if they do, then that's great. Then we need to let them know, and obviously let them know what to do. So when we go away and define this in our plan, again, you have a plan, and then similar to what I was mentioning before in the previous video, right? We've got our roles and our responsibilities and our outcomes, right? It's going to have, the role of the person, the first name, last name, the title, their responsibility, and you might even have things like outcomes as well, what they're actually going to be doing and driving. So these are very definitive and very actual kind of plan. It's a sort of a plan essentially that says XYZ person is responsible for this. Our legal team are responsible for XYZ. Our management team are responsible for notifying X, or whatever that process would look like. So you identify the different structures of the team and the actual responsibilities and the training and enablement that they're going to require to do and carry out those functions of the roles and the responsibilities. So training is kind of a really important area. So I'm just going to put training here as well, because should we need training, we have to factor that in and account for it as well. So the next phase from here, once we sort of identified our roles and responsibilities, is to move on into basically recording our contact information, right? So we've got things like so I'm going to put contact information. And this is maybe, organizations do this in many different ways and forms of when they're doing testing. And then in an upcoming video, when we talk about the different types of testing or references as well. But typically when we've got to record contact information, we've got to have basically everyone's contact information on either a form or maybe a little, people usually print out like a little the size of maybe a driver's license, something that's really easy, and you sort of laminate the document, and then it's got some contact information on there. That maybe it's got the police force, it's got some customers, maybe has insurance team, or consultants or key business people within the area or like within the business. And you got to go away and then define how we go about updating or recording the contact information of people that we're going to need access to, right? So typically this could be things like third-party websites. So typically, if we've got an outage, there may be something affecting our communication, right? So we're going to have to think outside the box. If our communication is down and we can't maybe email it out, and then our email services are down, then we typically may have to have a third-party website that's hosting our information on there that we can access it during that time of outage. So that could be something like as an example. Maybe we put it on physical cards, like things like this. So people print out a document or an A4 page, and they laminate that so it doesn't crinkle and crease easy, and then it will just have XYZ person, and we'll have contact name, like obviously the contact, the name, the details, and mobile number and email address and stuff like that. And it'll be just a page full of people that we need to maybe communicate with or get in contact with if anything goes wrong. So again, not only that, we will have people within our business, but obviously maybe external entities as well. So I'm going to put in here as we continue this way, and I'll just reroute up here. We're going to have external people within the business as well. Maybe it's our legal team that we may have to get in touch with. Maybe it's contractors. It could be maybe law enforcement if we've got people locally, like the police or something like that, where we have to maybe notify those sort of people. So it's going to be contact people that we have, those authorities or those authoritative figures, if we do need to reach them. That way, everyone has those details available. Should the time come, obviously an event comes, then we know what to do and who to contact. So that's one thing. Then we also need to identify on how we're going to communicate, because again, going back to that website issue, like if we've got a third party website where we're hosting this information, which is good. Now, if our systems are down and we can't communicate, or we've compromised something's occurred, well then we're going to figure out a way on how to communicate, either through messages or through other platforms. And some organizations again do this in a different way. So I'm just going to put comms in here, because this is another important area where it can be sometimes underlooked, and we have to factor in a couple of things, right? We've got to factor in, well, how are we going to communicate with our people, our teams, maybe customers? If our email services are down, or email services are compromised in that state of an incident, or something, an incident has been declared or an event has been declared that we've now our email servers are compromised, well, how are we then going to email out our customers, right? So we need to have either a backup solution that enables us to communicate out of bounds, and then have access to then our emails or Teams chats and stuff like that, where we can then communicate the updates of our event. So typically customers will do this in a number of ways. They may have PCs and obviously phones. So I'm going to put mobile phones here, um, PCs or laptops, right? So now I will talk about this in another video, but just for now, when we talk about comms, you may have things where, certain issues or certain members get issued with maybe a new, like a BR phone, like a DR or a BCP phone, so BC or DR phone, or a laptop in that case. So these things are sort of that subjective to that business continuity or disaster recovery. So they'll get issued with an appliance of such as a mobile phone, or a laptop in that case. So that way they can go away and then communicate through maybe secure channels as well. So maybe we will have a secure channel set up on these things. So that way we can communicate with certain people, and maybe you've got 50 people that have authority then to have these devices, and these are only just used for the event of an emergency, or obviously once we declare an event and we can't communicate through internal means, for example. So you can then go and appoint maybe 50 people who then go away and communicate maybe the rest of the people or the rest of the department somehow. And they sort of work out, how we're going to do that, of course. But, depending on the structure and depending on how the organization handles this process, that's typically on how you would do it. And then you'll, go away and then you'll communicate effectively to who you need to communicate an update about the incident or on the incident itself. So that's around communication. So contact information, obviously third-party websites, so we can host the information there. It can be done through a bunch of means. Um, Not only our technical and internal people, but we've also got access to external resources as well, like legal. There might be a compliance division or an external compliance team that supports us through governance and risk. Again, law enforcement and people like that in that nature, that if we need to call those people up to investigate a certain incident, then we've got those details there as well, and obviously how we go about our communications as well. Now, final step before we get to the top is obviously our recovery. So I'm going to put here recovery. And typically this is declaring things as, back to normal. So I'm going to put recovery, and then I'm going to put us here as a happy face, right? Us to be happy. And this is our recovery slash back to normal. Only because our recovery and our back to normal phase is basically saying that our recovery procedures and declaring back to normal. So once the event has occurred, this is the heart of the plan. If we don't have a recovery procedure, then we don't know how, right? So we wouldn't know what to do. We don't know how to do it. So this is sort of the heart of everything, right? Is our recovery coming back alive and ensuring our systems have integrity and availability back in a timely manner and a fashion. So we want to ensure that we're going to recover and restore those key business processes, which is vital. And that's the whole point of our recovery procedure. Going back again to our BIA, a criticality assessment that we mentioned before, and that's how we define all everything. And then obviously getting to that part of our restoration process and restoring those key business functions that are potentially affected during this outage or this event. And finally, declaring it back to normal. So again, once we go through that process, everything has been restored. We followed our plan, and now everything is back to normal and no longer in a workaround state. Then we have to then appoint someone, or the infrastructure has been tested, and we know the restoration is successful. That is great, right? Then we have to appoint someone and declare the event back to normal. So someone again in the process, similar to our team down here, who will go away. You've got your executive team or your crisis team. So I'm going to put executive team slash crisis team who are here, and you might have 10 people here, or you may have 3 people. And then you'll appoint someone then again who triage that event initially to declare it an event in step 2, so this step here. Um, and then the same thing will happen back in this step, is where they will then declare the event or declare back to normal. And then they'll notify everyone again who we told obviously the things that were down during the time of the event or the disaster. And then we basically let them know everything is back up and running. And then the final step is right to the top. And then we are back to normal. And that's essentially the whole process around our business continuity planning, creating the document, creating the plan. And this is essentially those steps that we go through in order to create, that document or the actual process of the plan itself. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If there's anything else in terms of business continuity planning and disaster recovery, again, we're going to cover a bit more in the upcoming videos as well. So I hope you found this video useful. And as always, thank you for viewing. See you all in the next video, and bye for now.